Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a great week so far. It's a hump day. Not yet quite the weekend, but we're almost there. And if you happen to be from the Philippines, you know that we're going to be having a long weekend this week because we're celebrating November 1 and November 2 as All Saints Day and All Souls Day. So I hope you have things planned for the long weekend. Either read a good book, binge on some Netflix series, or perhaps you're going somewhere, enjoying some beach if you're able to travel or visit some relatives, as long as you practice proper social distancing. So, welcome. This is part 4 of Tips to Overcome Your Shyness. We've done 3 sessions for this so far, and I hope you were able to catch them. If not, that's totally fine because this series is always, and like any other series, we've always uploaded them in our database and you can always catch them. That's the QR code and that is the link, bit.ly/JW database. We got more than 100 webinars that have been archived just for you. Free viewing, no questions asked because that's part of our public service because we'd like to be part of your career journey to your success. Domingo Ogales says, good afternoon from Duty Free. Thank you. Efren David says, November 2 is working holiday this year. Is it? Sorry, what does working holiday mean? I'm not sure if it means people have to go to work. Because at least I don't have any talks that have been scheduled for November 1 and 2 because my clients, at least in the Philippines, are all on holiday. So Anlay says also good afternoon. Also says Connie, thank you for joining our session as usual. Daphne also says good afternoon from Kuala Lumpur. All right. I'm also going to say hi to our participants who are watching us from LinkedIn and also YouTube. Thank you because you are helping us build our community. If you cannot watch this live webinar on Facebook, you can do so on LinkedIn and YouTube. Please don't forget to add or subscribe to our channels. If you haven't yet given us a like, which I'm noticing a lot of people have not, please give us a like. I am begging you. I'm going to say the word beg now. It will be great if you give us a like or a heart. It's going to improve our social media algorithm so we get to be exposed to more participants. We'd like to increase further our audience so we can reach out to helping other folks improve their careers and their success. So thank you. There you go. I am finally seeing more likes from the chat box now. Very good. Keep those likes coming. If you happen to be a first timer in this webinar, welcome. You chose to learn with us, so we thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. This is our company, JY Consultancy and Ventures. We specialize in organizational behavior. So whether it be about public speaking, business writing, leadership, motivation, or digital marketing, that's what we do. We help employees be in their best shape, and we do that through trainings and workshops. These days, we do that via virtual sessions. This is a sampler of our past webinars. You can scan the QR code or copy the link into your browser. If you haven't seen us speak yet and you'd like to see how we do that before you invite us for a private workshop for your company, you can do that by scanning the QR code or copying the link into your browser. If you'd also like to get an optional certificate for this webinar, you can copy the link or again, scan the QR code. Do you guys notice how my voice has been so raspy already? Because I've been speaking too long for the past few days. Not that I'm complaining, but we've had lots of webinars. So that's a good thing for us. As usual, last thing I'd like to remind our participants, we give away prizes in this session because that's how we love you. So audience members will be randomly chosen to win tickets to our premium webinars if they share this webinar on their Facebook or LinkedIn newsfeed. All you have to do is to click that share button on your Facebook feed or LinkedIn feed. Click that so that you are eligible to be called out later on. We cannot include those who did not share this webinar in the online contest. Okay, what will be the prizes for today? We're giving away 2 tickets to our Boost Your Confidence workshop happening already this Saturday, October 30. 2 tickets, that is 999 pesos or 90 ringgit per ticket. October 29, this is on Friday. This is happening already in the next 2 days. email etiquette and business writing, 2 tickets as well. By yours truly, Friday. This is happening on a weekday, 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. And of course, the last prize, I am going to give away from the Philippines. One lucky winner who's going to receive 500 pesos worth of freebies from our generous sponsor, Oh So Healthy, or OSH. So they're known for their gluten-free and preservative-free snacks. They're also guilt-free because they're made out of natural fruits or vegetables. I hope you get to join this later on. 500 pesos of gift certificates that you can claim from their online store. So please stay tuned for that. Baldo says, good afternoon, watching from Rosario, Batangas. Bing Penalba also says, good afternoon. Also says Melvin and Riasen and Mary Lou. Thank you for watching our session. So let's get to business now. Please prepare to engage in the following activities. Keep the chat box noisy, participate in the poll, and later on, please get ready to type your answer so we can crowdsource the responses from all the participants. If you happen to be shy, I hope you're not, but if you are, because that's ironic, right? This session is about not being shy, but I guess that's the reason why you're here, because you want to overcome your shyness. If you're still shy to ask a question, you can still send that to me, jonathanyabut at jycvasia.com. Okay? Today's agenda for part 4 is simple. We're going to be sharing some 3 therapy techniques for managing your shyness. So a lot of this have anecdotes based on research. A lot of these are also things that work for me, and also things that I teach to my students, especially for those who want to gear up their public speaking skills. Remember, not all techniques will be applicable to a certain person. Some people will need a trial and error. Some people like chocolate, some people like vanilla. Some people will do better with technique number 1. Some people will do with technique number 2. So you're going to be needing a lot of patience. If one technique does not apply to you, it does not mean you are inferior to the rest. It just means you're a unique person, right? So have some patience and do a trial and error. Keep on trying those techniques until you finally find the one that you are comfortable with and the one that is effective for you. Okay? Lani says, good afternoon, watching from Tondo, Manila. You know, I grew up in the streets of Tondo until the age of 17 years old from Moriones, Tondo, Manila. April says, wow. Gerardo Jimenez says, good afternoon as well. Also says Mark and April. Thank you for joining our session. Before we start, what are the manifestations of shyness? How does a person know that the person he's speaking to is shy or hesitant about what they'd like to share? So 3 things. Shyness can be biological in terms of its manifestations. So you know this already. Some people sweat. Some people experience a fast heartbeat. That's because your body is starting to prepare it for specific actions. The problem with the body is that whenever it associates fear or anxiety, it thinks that it's about something that involves running, something that involves moving. But that was thousands of years ago when we were still with saber-toothed tigers or, I don't know, cobras and snakes and all these things. Fear and anxiety these days can be emotional. Did the brain adapt to that? Unfortunately, no. That's the reason why your heart still beats. It's trying to beat faster so it can pump in more oxygen to the rest of the body. The assumption is you are running. The assumption is that you're moving fast, but you're not. So you see how evolution failed us on that part. That's the reason why you have a fast heartbeat. It could also be coldness. It could also be trembling, for example. It could also be, for example, moving certain parts of your body. So that's biological. Number 2, how about speech? People manifest shyness when they stutter. Some people, when they are shy, their pitch goes higher. Do you see that? In Tagalog or in the Philippines, we call it as pumipiyok. You suddenly start like, something like that, right? My pitch went higher. Also, people who happen to be shy are very defensive with their choice of words. So they add additional words that are unnecessary. We call them as crutch words. When you notice that someone keeps on saying the word actually, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, we're now starting. Is everyone here? Because actually, I want to start. And actually, many people are looking at the screen now. And actually, so someone who keeps on saying the word actually is... That's my dog, Tanjiro, by the way. He's barking now. Anyone who's saying the word actually too many times is insecure, is shy, is concerned about judgment, or is afraid that they might make some mistakes, and for that reason, they're going to be rejected by their audience. It's not just the word actually, it could also be the word honestly, basically, technically. We call them as crutch words. Even if you take them out, it does not diminish the value of your statements. Okay? April Soriano says, "Oh God, that's all me." So it's good. The key to self-improvement starts with self-awareness. Now that you know that you are that person, you have an idea whenever it strikes in your body. Okay? Third is body language. Please take note, if you happen to be that person who wants to show confidence, try to avoid manifesting it through your gestures. So, fidgeting is an example. What's an example of fidgeting? You're on a table, you're sitting, your hands are on the table, and then you keep on tapping the table. Or sometimes you have a ball pen and you keep on doing the sound. You see that clicking? It's either you're bored or you are agitated. You have a certain level of anxiety because you cannot wait for something to finish. It could also be that you are scribbling on a piece of paper. You know those people when they write their names in different font? Jonathanyabut, Jonathanyabut, Jonathanyabut. And they keep on repeating that, or they're doodling. So it's either they're hesitant about what's to happen next, or they could also be bored. Okay? It could also be, for example, your knees are trembling and shaking all the time. So if you keep on moving it, in Filipino, we call it as kuyakoy. So you keep on moving your knees. Of course, people don't see that, thankfully, but you can also feel that you are shy or that you are afraid of what's about to happen next if you also do that. Another example of shyness, and this is the most dominant part, is body contraction. So example of that, you cross your arms. You stoop down, you make yourself feel smaller. If you happen to participate in our Boost Your Confidence workshop happening October 30, we're going to explain more about this. But the idea is simple. People will perceive you to be shy, not open to any conversation if you contract your body, in this case. Mark Joseph says, "I used to do that to release tension." Mark also says, "It becomes a filler, actually, honestly." Yeah. Anything that is an adverb with the word L, with the letters ly. Okay? So please be conscious of these manifestations, because if you exhibit them, people obviously see it. They will see a less confident version of you. It also lowers your credibility when you are speaking. And you don't want that, especially if you're proposing for an increase in your budget, you're proposing for an additional manpower for your team, or you're asking for a salary raise, right? Or you're reminding your boss that you need to get promoted because you've been in the company for 6 years and you've achieved so much, and yet the company's not doing anything to you. Okay? Hale Estacion says, "That's me writing over and over again." Yeah. So that's another example of that. You know how I manifest my shyness? When I go on a romantic date, I have a tendency, I did not notice this at the beginning, but my dates would often tell me, I would get the napkin on a table and then I would tear it into pieces. So like this one, no? Let me just get some napkin because I have some in front of me. So here's a piece of a napkin. So I would like fold it and then I would tear it, and I will put it into like smaller circles or dots, and then I will place it on the table. When I was younger, I would not notice that, but my body was doing it into autopilot mode. And that's because I was insecure, I was shy, right? In this case. Okay, right? So let's start now with the 3 therapy techniques. John, how can I improve if I still shy when I speak in front of an audience? Let's start with the first question. Practice does not only comfort the body, but more importantly, it comforts the mind. Letter A, agree. Letter D, disagree. I'm sure you have an idea already what the answer here is. And I hope you have the same answer as mine. The answer is letter A. Well, there's no right or wrong, but my answer here would be agree. I definitely agree because practice makes you feel that, hey, I've done this 1,000 times. I should not screw it up. Okay? So practice does not only make your muscle memory, it also becomes a proof to your brain that because you've prepared for it, you deserve to win it. Right? Because you've exerted effort in it, you know that you're credible to talk about it. Right? So I would agree. Practice doesn't only comfort the body, but more importantly, it comforts the mind. So one science-backed tip to manage shyness is step number 1. We call that as exposure therapy. What is exposure therapy? As literal as you think about it, The more you get exposed to something, the more you get less intimidated and less afraid of it. Okay? Most of the time, we are afraid because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? So many of us think about the worst case scenario. I'm a victim of that because that's my struggle in life. I often think about too much what can happen wrong in the future. But because you have not experienced it yet in actuality, your tendency is to fantasize. And sometimes you punish yourself by thinking about those worst situations. So exposure therapy is when, number one, you keep on repeating it to the point that it becomes normal. This is the reason why, if you know that you're not yet good in impromptu speaking, the best way is to keep on repeating that speech. Start with memorizing it, if you need to really memorize it, and then graduate into say it in using your own words to say it. And then number three, sometimes you can use bullet points, down to repeating and repeating it to the point that it becomes so normal that you start, okay, I'm gonna use this word, you start getting bored. Okay, you start getting bored to the point that the fear is already starting to go away. Can I get an exclamation mark if you can relate to that? So repetition, normalization. Another example is, let's say you're afraid of talking to your CEO. You know what's the best way to take away that intimidation? Keep on talking to the CEO. The more you talk to him, if you have an opportunity, the many times you get exposed to someone, the more you will see this person as someone who's just normal in this case, right? When I say normal, someone who is just an ordinary person, right? Someone who's like, I think he's richer than me. I think he has more power than me. Most of us think that way. The more you get exposed to the person, the more you will think that, he's just like me. He's just a human being. Okay? All right? It's just like falling in love with someone. At the beginning, you're intimidated with a girl or with a guy. And then the more you hang out with each other, the more that you think that he's just like me. Okay? And then you can start asking for favors. You start quarreling as well. You start getting into conflicts. The second one is called deep observation. If you cannot experience the activity yourself, the best way is to keep on watching it. Okay? So here's what I often say to, I have this friend. Let me give you an example. I have this friend, and this was way years ago. This friend of mine was very intimidated with her own boss. She couldn't speak in front of her. And that's because she was idolizing her way before she became a direct report of this person. So I told her, you know what? What's a good way to be less intimidated? Observe her. If you know that she's at the canteen in the morning, go to the canteen, eat there, and observe her. Don't just make a caveat. Don't be like a stalker. Okay? Act cool. Okay? Observe her, look at her, stare at her. But again, don't be like a stalker, because you're gonna sound like really a creep in this case. The more you observe the person, the more you will notice the vulnerabilities, right? The more you get to see the ugly side of the person, like, she spills coffee in front of her shirt. She wasn't able to get that. She scratches her head, right? The more you see these things, the more you diminish the value of the person and you humanize the person as well. Okay? This is also the reason why sometimes when you think, you know that tactic of people when you're afraid to speak in front of the public, think of them as naked. Okay? So I find this ridiculous, but it does work for some people. Why? Because when you think of people in nude or in naked terms, you think about them as human as you can be, right? No matter how good looking you are, I think you're naked, I think you're funny, and therefore you're just as human as I am. So deep observation works in this case. The third one is role modeling. So similar to deep observation, role modeling is be exposed to someone who you want to become, someone that you want to imitate. And can I graduate that verb into emulate? And then later on, you start stealing the best practice from the person until you become that person. So every time someone asks me, John, why are you good in public speaking? And I would say, on top of becoming a debater when I was in university, I had really good role models. I would watch a lot of TV series, legal TV series to be specific. So I grew up watching Suits. I grew up watching Ally McBeal, The Practice, How to Get Away with Murder. What I would do is I would get one favorite character who I think speaks really well, and then I would get the best parts of how they speak, their manner, their gesture. Sometimes I would even use their pickup lines, or I would use their killer lines. I would apply it in certain situations. And then I start forming my own style because I don't want to sound like a copycat. I still want to become a Jonathan, right? And that's still part of exposure therapy. Okay. I'm looking at the chat box here. T Wang says, in this case, someone told me to just think of the audience as poop. You know, that still works. I'm not going to deny that works. Why? Because you're trying to see the person in a different light. And hey, who no one admires poop. Everyone is disgusted of poop. So if that works for you at the beginning, why not? Right? As long as you graduate later on into seeing them as human beings, because I want to still you to still consider them with that utmost respect. My Tanjiro is eating what are you eating? I think he's eating some tissue paper now that I just threw at him. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so that is tip number one, exposure therapy. If you can't do it yourself, be closer to someone that you can be exposed to. And this is true, guys. At the end of the day, one of the most powerful assets of human being is the power of mimicry. We have the ability to imitate others. We mimic, we mirror. The more you mimic someone, the more it becomes a part of who you are. This is why the best role models of kids are their parents because they mimic their parents at an early age. You have that power as well, even when you're an adult. Okay? All good? So, having said that, example of an exposure therapy. Do you know that one of the mental illnesses that is anecdoted to be curable? Okay, that's rare because there are a lot of mental illnesses that can't be cured easily, and sometimes it takes a very long time until it works. Is the illness of phobia? Okay, so when someone, for example, is afraid of spiders, a lot of psychologists or psychiatrists tend to follow a certain routine. So when you're afraid of spiders, what they would do is to use exposure therapy. They would expose you first to the non-actual versions of the spider until you graduate into the real spider. So for example, when someone's afraid of that, by the way, I want to highlight spiders are not insects. Can I get the letter I? I hope that changes your life today. Spiders are not insects. They fall under a different category called arachnids. And arachnids are not insects. They fall into a different category of species. Okay, so just want to highlight that. So they start showing a picture of a spider, right? If the patient is able to manage looking at a picture of a spider, then he can start graduating into looking at, let's say, a model of a spider inside an enclosure. If he's okay with that, he can start looking at a spider in a virtual reality or augmented reality. And then finally, when he's able to graduate from that, he can start holding a spider. So you see what I did there? This is exposure therapy, repetition. Okay? It's trying to put into your memory that spiders are not a bad thing. So that's how it works. That's the same thing for public speaking as well. You start inch by inch. You start with perhaps a smaller crowd, 2 or 5 people. And then you graduate into 30 to 100 people. And then you graduate into 500 or 1,000 people. Okay. Sometimes it's also easier, and I've noticed that this is something that I've found effective. It's better to make a person speak up in front of a TV screen before actually talking to an entire audience that's live. Because it's less intimidating to speak in front of a Zoom session, even if there are 2,000 people. You have no faces to judge you. You can look at that small screen on your computer, and you don't feel that someone is looking at your body or your face. Okay. Anna, let's look at this question from Anna alias. Is shyness and social anxiety disorder are two different things? Yes. So shyness is not a disease. Social anxiety disorder is. Shyness can just be a perimeter of how a person is. It's a feature of someone's personality. So when someone is shy, generally, you are afraid of people's judgment. You are afraid of people's rejection. Shyness can also be momentarily, meaning it's only happening for a few seconds or during that hour. Some people can be permanently shy because, in general, that's how their personality is. So, for example, I am not a shy person. I'm a very extroverted person. I love being in the company of others. However, if you throw me into a party of 30 people and everyone in that party knows each other and I don't know anyone, it is normal for me to be shy. So you see what I did there? I can be shy at that very moment, but I'm not shy in general as a person. Okay? That is different versus social anxiety disorder, in which a person, okay? So by the way, this is not a replacement for anyone's medical condition. If you have social anxiety disorder, my recommendation is that you pursue someone who manages this disease or this illness, right? A social anxiety disorder, on the other hand, can be more debilitating and it can also be long term. And it also is manifested by other symptoms in this case. Okay? So let's proceed. Thank you, Anna, for that question, by the way. So before we continue with the second therapy technique, I want to let our participants know that on November 3, that is next week, Wednesday, please join us for our next free webinar, Business Writing in the Time of Pandemic, Part 6. Can you believe it? It's already Part 6. So hope you join us. Please save the date, save the calendar marks in your phone and in your laptops. Okay. I'm also going to give one more announcement. On November 10, we have how to manage conflicts and colleagues, how to manage conflicts with colleagues and managers, part 5. This is on November 10, Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. I hope you save the date. If you would like to get some tips on how to manage the politics at work, this is the right webinar for you. Okay. Before I continue, we have one more question from Agnes. Is being an introvert a disadvantage in the corporate setting? The answer is yes and no. Generally, no, because being an introvert does not make you inferior to an extrovert. Remember, the only difference between an extrovert and introvert is how you derive your energy. Extroverted people derive their energy if there is a group of people around them. Introverted people don't. They just enjoy solitude. So, technically speaking, you can be in a good place if you are in an office, if you happen to be an extrovert, because you know you can function properly even when there are a lot of noises, even when there are a lot of people talking. You are disadvantaged if you're an extrovert and you are forced to work from home. You see what I did there? So, if you really look at it, the answer is yes or no. Also, I want to highlight that just because you are not as an expressive as an extrovert, it doesn't mean that introverts are of lesser quality. Introverts are known to do some introspection before they speak up. Introverts, before they speak up, they first consult other people. They think about the situation first. That could be advantageous for you because before you push the button, you first test the waters. Many leaders are like that. Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates are self-confessed introverts. So they're not as expressive. They may not even be good in public speaking all the time, but if you notice, they can still be commanding and they can lead an organization as well. Okay? Ooh, Jero says here, by the way, I remember the time when I conducted my first career talk. I used to quote, every master was once a disaster. You start from scratch. You start from zero. So I often think about this when you're intimidated that someone is way better than you. Remember that they started from zero as well. When I go to the gym and I see someone with really beautiful body, I'm like, man, I want those kinds of abs as well in my body. I want those arms. I want to also have them. And I feel envious, but at the same time, I will feel more inspired because I would tell to myself, that person did not do that out of overnight experience. They did that over months or years. So I can become like that because they are a proof that it can happen to someone like them. It can also happen to me in this case. Okay, so let's proceed. Let's go to the second therapy. The second is what we call as the mind or body therapy. How can I trick my body to think that I don't feel shy at all? Because let's face it, guys, sometimes your brain goes into autopilot mode, making you think that you're this shy, but you can trick it not to feel that way otherwise. For example, I've mentioned this before, and if you happen to be part of our session number 2, I talked about what I call as peer therapy, or what I call as the security blanket. Security blanket is a person, a thing that you carry with you or bring along with you whenever you're about to speak in front of an audience. They make you feel secure because they add a touch of familiarity to a strange situation. So that's one example. Another example is transfer the confidence from somewhere. You know why athletes or celebrities are very confident in general? Because even if they may not be the best in all aspects of life, they get their confidence from where they're good at. So, for example, if you're good in basketball, gather that confidence. And if you're starting to speak in public, get that confidence and say, I am good in one thing in life. I know I can be good in other things. And even if I may not be good in that one thing, at least I know one thing that I have mastered. So you've already gotten a level of confidence. Channel that confidence to something else. Right? Sometimes I use this technique. I'm not a good dancer, I would say. But when I'm asked to dance in front of an audience, or let's say in a party, I will tell to myself, hey, I'm not a good dancer, but I will dance because I know my worth as a person. I know that I can do a good conversation. I know that I can be funny. And so I'm just going to make fun of myself in this dance, and therefore I will dance. Right? So I'm using my confidence from elsewhere, confidence from one other thing that I'm good at. It could be business writing, public speaking, you're good in cooking, and say to yourself, that proves my self-worth as a person. I'm already enough. I suffice. And if ever I make a mistake in this part, that's fine. I am not totally defined by that mistake. I am still good in other things in life, and I am valid. I am accepted. I am a human being that's worth the respect of other people. Okay? Third, for the mind and body therapy is habitual deep breathing. I hate the fact that a lot of people take this for granted, and people think that it doesn't work at all, or they underestimate the power of breathing. Why is deep breathing important? Remember, when your body starts to have all this blood rushing all around you, which I mentioned a while ago, remember? The reason why your heart is pumping so fast is because it's trying to deliver more oxygen to the rest of the body. Why is it doing that? It assumes that the fear is coming from you needing to survive from a danger of being eaten alive hundreds and hundreds of years ago from tigers or whatever predator that there is. That is still the autopilot mode of the body. So what happens now? If you feel scared and your blood is pumping, take deep breath, because that is going to send a message to your body that you don't need to pump in more blood. You can relax. So I want to highlight this. Never underestimate the power of deep breathing. If you feel afraid of something, take a deep breath. If you don't want people to see you like that, go to the washroom, go somewhere else private, take deep breaths as well. Okay? Can I get an exclamation mark? Does this help? So I want to emphasize this because your mind does not dictate you all the time. Your body can also help you feel that you are confident in this case. All right. I'm looking at the chat box right now. Very good. Lani Martin says, I agree. Great things come from small beginnings. Isn't that the Milo theme? By the way. Okay. Let's pause for a bit. Can we ask our participants now to type in more questions if you have? And I'm also going to invite, if you haven't yet liked or hearted this webinar, would like you to please do that now. It's going to help us improve our social media algorithm. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go to tip number 3 now. And before we do that, I'm going to start asking our participants. I'm going to invite you, please start typing your questions now so we can allot time for it later on. If you also happen to miss part 1 to 3 of this topic, Fear not, they're still archived in our Facebook page. You can go to the video section, to the live section, or you can scan the QR code or copy the link into your browser. Okay, it's time now for a prize for our participants. We'll be giving away 2 tickets to our Boost Your Confidence workshop, October 30. This is already happening in 2 days, guys. 2 days, Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to call out now the 2 winners. Make sure that you have shared this this webinar on your Facebook or LinkedIn feed. My 2 winners, ladies and gentlemen. My first one, the name is Zaldi Musni. Zaldi Musni. And then my second winner, ladies and gentlemen, the name is Gabinera Kent. Gabinera Kent. Congratulations to our 2 winners. For those who have won, please claim your prize. Look at the scrolling marquee. Do you see that bar? You'll see there that there is a link that corresponds to where you should fill out the form so we can get your email address and we can contact you to get the Zoom link for our session. Okay, I'm going to answer a question now from Agnes. Question of Agnes is, how can I set healthy boundaries with my boss who always expects me to render overtime and work on weekends? So indirectly, I think what you want to mean here is, how can I say to my boss that I need to put a stop? Because we're talking about confidence in this session, right? So there are 2 things. Number 1, identify why you are afraid to tell this to your boss. Are you afraid of judgment? Are you afraid of losing your job? Are you afraid of destroying the relationship? You have to write this down so you can internalize them. And my recommendation to you is, if the worst case scenario is something that you can take in, it's acceptable and it's not going to be so bad after all, then there is no reason to be afraid. Okay? If you think that your life and your mental health is starting to get dramatically affected because you have to work on the weekends, it's worth saying these things, right? All the fears that you have are nothing because the cost of being afraid is lesser than the cost that this is causing to your life over the weekend. So I see it that way. When I see it from a cost-benefit analysis, I see that the fear and the embarrassment is so little. It is negligible in this case. Okay? All right, let's proceed to the last part before we end our session. So, last tip now. Science-backed tip to manage your shyness is what we call as perspective therapy. Perspective therapy is you change your mindset. Am I anxious or can I be excited instead? Am I afraid of speaking or am I afraid of my friends? Sometimes you need to tell your brain, what am I feeling? Is this really what I feel or is it what I thought I was feeling? I'll give an example. People often ask me, John, are you ever afraid of speaking in front of a very large audience, 1,000 people, 500 people? And I would say, of course, I'm afraid. It's normal to be afraid because if I am not afraid, it means this does not matter to me. If you're afraid of something, if you're afraid of making a mistake, it means that this matters to you a lot. So it's a good symptom. But number 2, I tell myself there is a bad side to feeling anxious and nervous. And that is, instead of saying that, oh my gosh, 1,000 people, if I make a mistake, they will never forgive me. They will talk about me. I will never be hired again as a motivational speaker. And it's normal to think like that. But instead of anxiety, I convert it into excitement. I change my perspective. So I say to myself, which one is better? Being anxious that I will be judged forever, that I made a mistake? Or number 2, remembering that time that I changed someone's life, or remembering that time that I was able to inspire hundreds or thousands of people in an audience because I did well in my motivational talk? Which one do you prefer? Of course, the latter, right? So I changed my perspective. These 2 things are normal to experience, but I will gravitate more to the latter part. I'm going to tell to myself, I'd rather be excited than be anxious. I want to highlight this because anxiety and excitement are coming from the same part of your body. Your amygdala, your hypothalamus are the same parts of your brain that are affected every time you feel afraid or excited. It's the same thing. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They can just be in a different form or shape in this case. So change your perspective, right? Change the focus also. That's another one. Sometimes, if you're afraid of what can happen, don't think of what's happening in between. Eyes on the prize instead, right? My favorite mantra when I talk to my audiences, I often tell them, remember that pain is a function of time. You don't like what's happening right now, but it's just 5 minutes. It's just 1 hour. It's just 2 hours. If you think you can survive those 2 hours, then you'll be fine. Don't think about the pain. Think about the 2 hours. In 2 hours, this is all going to be done. Let's say, for example, you're 20 years old. You've survived 20 years. You probably are going to survive 2 hours as well, right? So change the focus in this case. Or reward therapy. If something is so daunting, something is so scared, accept it, but be more excited that there's going to be a prize at the end of the game. Focus on the prize instead. So change the perspective as well. Okay? Can I get an exclamation mark? Do we see how perspective is important in this case? And perspective is important because in this case, it needs a certain level of education. It also requires a level of creativity and imagination. You cannot change your perspective if you're not imaginative enough. So you need to be creative in visualizing in your brain, this is going to happen next if I do this. Okay? All right. I'm going to open the floor now for some Q&A because we are about to end our session. Also, while people may be typing their question in the chat box, let me give away now some prizes. Let's give away this prize. 2 more tickets for email etiquette and business writing. It's an online workshop on how to improve your ways of writing your business reports, emails, and instant message, happening already this Friday. That is tomorrow. 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Right? Sorry, is it tomorrow? No, in the next 2 days because today is just Wednesday. I keep forgetting. Sorry, I'm so excited about the week, about the long week. Okay, so let's give away the 2 tickets now. My winners, let me look at the chat box. Again, I can only grant the prizes to those who have shared this webinar on Facebook or LinkedIn newsfeed. So my first winner, the name is Vic Elarde Balino. Congratulations, Vic Elarde Balino. And my second winner, ladies and gentlemen, the name is Joyce Caceres. Congratulations, Joyce Caceres. Both of you just won 1 ticket each for our October 29 session on email etiquette and business writing. Congratulations. For those who won, look at the scrolling marquee. You see that? That's how you claim your prize. Copy the link into your internet browser, and we're going to send to you our Zoom links. Okay? All good so far? Yes? Let me just turn on the light because I forgot to turn on the light in my bedroom, and now it's kind of dark. Okay. Here's the last prize that we're going to give away. We are going to give away our 500 pesos worth of freebies from Also Healthy or Osh. Are you guys ready for this? I saved the best for last because I'm a big fan of their snacks. They're gluten-free, they're preservative-free, and they're made out of natural ingredients. So it's like guilt-free snacking as well. Perfect for those midnight snacking or those merienda afternoon snacking as well. So, who's our winner? We're going to choose again now from our participants. The winner, ladies and gentlemen, again, you have to share this on your Facebook feed. My winner, ladies and gentlemen, the name is Ernie Malianao. Ernie Malianao. Congratulations, Ernie, for winning. You just won 500 pesos worth of freebies from Also Healthy or Osh. How do you claim your prize? Very simple. Look at the screen right now. That is the email address. Please send your email to this address and indicate that you have won 500 pesos courtesy of the webinar from Jonathan Yabut. Okay, congratulations. Now that we've given our prizes, let's proceed answering some of the questions of our participants. Okay, So let me look at the chat box right now. So I have here a comment from Hermione. Hermione says, "It was my problem of getting nervous whenever I spoke in a big audience. One of the technique I made was using words that are new to their ears and do a Q&A after every topic. One technique that also works is to make your talk conversational, as if you're just talking to a friend in a coffee shop. The more you make it conversational, the more you feel like this is just one of those conversations I have with someone that I know. Okay? Someone who's not going to judge me, someone who I think is going to listen to me." So thank you for sharing that, Hermione. Okay? Just take a note, however, if you're going to converse with an audience, try to use words that are easy to understand. Don't use highfalutin words, and the reason for that is because it will further alienate your audience. The more that you use words that they may not understand, the more that they think that you are pretentious or that you're trying to make an impression. The best speakers always make use of words that are easy to the biggest mainstream of audiences. Okay? So I have here one more question from Peter. How to overcome the thought of others disagreeing to the things that you say as a speaker? This limits me to soar high in public speaking. My answer here is simple. Admit the fact that not everyone is going to agree with you. That's a fact. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. Because life is like that. People will always have different opinions. Someone out there is always going to think that they're better than you. Ignore it. You have the stage. You already have it. So just keep on saying what you need to say. Right? The more you're concerned of wanting to please everyone, the more that you will not be able to be confident. You're not pizza. Okay? I'm going to use the word pizza because I think pizza is always liked by everyone. And pizza is never bad. There's always like okay pizza and there's always really delicious pizza, but there is never such a thing as a bad pizza. Agree? Even if they're refrigerated or cold pizza is still good. Right? Now I'm hungry. Okay? So, Peter, always remember that you're not pizza. You cannot please everyone. You can't be everyone's cup of tea. Okay? Okay, here's from Nick. Any tips on how not to feel like I'm being arrogant when discussing my achievements in relation to year-end reviews? First, some people will always think like that. And if they do, you can't be sorry too much for yourself because there will be people who will think that you're arrogant. I do think, however, that there are ways to mitigate that. One is to manage your pronouns. Instead of using I or my, use our and we. The more you use pronouns that include teamwork, the more the person feels that you're not grandstanding. So instead of saying, for example, like, I need this project by 5 p.m., say something like, John, we need this project to be done by 5 p.m. Okay? When you're celebrating something, don't just say, my project finally achieved its target. Say something like, our project finally achieved its target. You are implying that this was not a solo act. This was a group or team effort. Okay? All right. Give me an exclamation mark. Did we learn something for today's session? Time flies so fast. It's already an hour, right? If you're enjoying and if you're learning something, I hope you are. Give us a like, give us a heart. That will help us improve our social media algorithm so we can reach out to more folks. Okay? All right. I hope to get to see you in our future sessions. Don't forget, save the date next week, November 3, Business Writing in the Time of Pandemic, Part 6. That is on Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. And I'm going to leave you behind now our QR codes. If you'd like to watch our past webinars, scan it or copy the link into your browser. If you'd like to claim a certificate for this specific webinar, scan the QR code or also copy the link into your browser. Stay safe. I hope you have a restful weekend. For our participants watching from the Philippines, enjoy a long weekend. It's one of the longest weekends we've had for quite a while. 4-day weekends are rare these days, so savor it and make the most out of it. We'll see you next week. Stay safe and take care of someone that you love. Continue being critical, as always, with your environment. Bye, guys.